that what is our position, and that Gauteng provincial chairperson and the premier is ready to move ahead with the establishment of government. Now, you have heard yesterday in the press conference that the DA said that what is happening in Gauteng is not interlinked to KZN or national. And Fred Nell was articulating that position. So you were there in cameras and recording. So, and they said also through Hellen Zille yesterday that they are prepared to go back to the benches if ever they are not part and parcel or what they want is not approved. Now, from where we started in terms of what Panyaza as the chair have given us is that we started at a high note and then the real interference happened and we don't know what precipitated that. And then changes started to come in after the declaration, after the statement of intent, which I will speak to also speak to the question of the Freedom Charter at the end of the day. So, in our statement, and what I've said here today is that we still want the DA and all other parties that have agreed with the statement of intent here in Gauteng has agreed to continue to participate and to be part of government. We have said to South Africans that we're negotiating in good faith. When Zille yesterday raised the issue that our leadership here in Gauteng left them with an understanding that they are going to come back to them to finalize their discussions, so there was no deadlock. I then said to her, let's go back to the negotiating team. I will lead the ANC negotiating team. You come with Gauteng. I will come with Gauteng. Comrades, my leadership here in Gauteng, we meet together. We met the whole afternoon yesterday. And then we also left there with them. So I've got confidence in Panyaza. He can negotiate with anybody. I don't have to be there to police him. He understands the strategic framework and everything of what was agreed. He's a member of the NEC. So he understands what we have to do. And the members of our negotiating team were actually there. So they still reached a deadlock. So the engagement is there, but you can't have an open-ended process. And so that is why in our letter we said at 2 o'clock today, we must hear from them, but equally, not arrogantly, respectively so, we will move forward without the DA in terms of Gauteng to establish government. And that's what is going to happen going forward. And the DA told us yesterday, even in the negotiations, that they are prepared to go back to the benches. If this is a deal breaker for them, then they will go. But if not, we'll move together going forward. There have been compromises back and forth. DA believes that proportionality, according to Zille, to them it means 5-5, which each party must share 1-1 for the opposition. That reflects power sharing, according to them. Now, we don't have to engage what power sharing is in GNU. The spirit of the intent means inclusiveness. It means you include even a party with 1 vote, and that's what is important. So they wanted to know which parties you want to include. Remember, the spirit of intent says the party that has got the majority will invite others to form government. And that's what it says. So the question of who you have spoken to and who have signed with you, it's not the secret. It's a matter that we can explain to the DA. It has been out there. We have explained with the GNU discussions in our statements openly that 10 Now 11 parties have signed with us. And Gauteng have been trying to follow that framework and all of that. So what makes fanatics to think that Gauteng is anti-DA in Gauteng is because there are people inherently, even in the ANC, who don't like the DA. You understand? Who don't like the DA, because the DA and the ANC is like milk and oil. We are well apart. But the result of the election, they've produced the result in which we've got to work together to form a government. We've had many options before we arrived at this option. We've had an option which was easy. A grand coalition, one party or parties coming together to work together. We had that option. We had an option of a minority government with elements of supply and confidence agreements. We had that option. Initially in our discussion, it looked like we'll gravitate towards that. But it came to a point where we don't care whether the animal is black or white, but we are in this thing that brings everybody together. And we coined it from our National Executive Committee as a government of national unity with characteristics of supply and confidence. And we have seen the expression of that now, because when we're talking, it was theory. What it means is that within the 10 parties, others will not be in the executive, but they would prefer to work within the legislatures, but not in the executive. Not everybody wants to be in government. And the DA came back with a firmer position, and they said that we want to come in. We want to be part and parcel of government. We said fine and good, but it's not only you, it's others. So we worked on a statement of intent. We signed with the DA, and then the second party to sign was PA, the other one to follow was IFP, and others followed. And that's what has happened in terms of the statement of intent. So Gauteng, we gave them a go-ahead to talk, and that's why Panyaza was elected as premier and to move with the DA, because they said to us there is an agreement. We said good shot, go ahead. The same as KZN, the same as Northern Cape. So Gauteng has never moved outside the realm of democratic centralism in terms of ANC politics. From the onset, the National Executive Committee and the officials said that we must all move together. And that's what is important. And then we said to them, start the talks about talks. Talk to everybody. Engage them. Before we even arrived at the position that we arrived at of the GNU. And that's what has actually happened. So, engaging with Hellen and the DA has not been a difficulty. And it is not a difficulty even now, Lizeka. Talks go on, you won't imagine how it happens up until late and wee hours of the morning. And exchanging of drafts and all of that and so on. So we're open to engagement, even before we arrived at the decision that Gauteng have said that today they are ready to move ahead. So our statement is very clear. After consultation, Panyaza will then move ahead as his prerogative based on his full understanding of parties that are prepared to participate in the provincial government of national unity, move ahead to establish government. And other parties may respectfully say, we're not coming. Like the DA have said yesterday, this is not reflective of their own conception of power sharing. And that in this particular instance, they've got an option of stepping out. Let me tell you, among the options the ANC had when we approached this discussion was first, can we go for a rerun of the elections? Can we, among others, go for a rerun of the elections? Can we go to the backbenches? Now, you know that the ANC, if it were to take the option of going to the backbenches, it will be the biggest, largest opposition party in the world in history of politics. With 6 million people, you go back to the backbenches. No, it has never happened. The party with the largest majority, without a mandate to form government outright, is the one that leads and works with everybody. It's not by choice. Even if political parties were to come together and do what others said we must be removed surgically, they will never be able to achieve that. The reason why they are in negotiations is because the electorate said, relax, we don't agree with that. We want you to work together. That's what President Ramaphosa says plainly. This result have produced a result where it says work together. And so that is what has actually happened. So, Lizeka, we are prepared to engage with Hellen and the DA, and if we are to find a solution by the time I finish here, well and good. Well and good. But the message I got from her didn't look like we are heading that direction. But it doesn't mean I'll stop talking to her. What is the time now? It's 4 o'clock. So we've not been negotiating with deadlines. Political parties mature, come back. We started 20, we come down.